Okay, we are live, open door live with Vince Robinson and my special guest, brother Wayne B. Chandler. We just finished the broadcast on AM 1490 WERE. 360 Info Network is the name of that radio program. But we are happy and pleased to be able to continue our conversation on this platform. So we were talking about the book that you have written. And brother Wayne, I've been selling your book, man. I've been selling your book. You know, I read it in 2 days for the first time back in December, and so much of what we talked about on the show was in that book today. So we can revisit that for a few moments, and then we can move on to some other subjects. But this is perhaps a perfect opportunity for you to let folks know why that book is important and what you wanted to accomplish by publishing it.
Yeah, that's a good statement. The reason I wrote Ancient Future was because I felt that we needed to have a bridge that described and created a perceptible connection between our ancient past and our current present reality, and how that ancient past literally affects our everyday current existence. And so out of that Ancient Future was born that idea. And I think a lot of it, I began collecting information regarding the work of Ancient Future some years and years ago, long before. I mean, I started writing Ancient Future in the 90s, and it was published right on the cusp of 1999, 2000. And it definitely was a book ahead of its time. And because of that, a lot of what is happening now in the world is being revealed through the pages, that were written in Ancient Future, 20 years ago.
Can you talk about what some of those things might be?
Sure. Things that are gender-based, gender-specific, just the shift and change regarding consciousness. Right now, we're literally moving and have been moving into a place of an expanded perception of reality. We've all been pretty much contained in these boxes. And in these boxes, we've had a very limited perception of what constitutes reality. And where we are now, where we're going currently, reflects the idea of a broader worldview. And that broader worldview moves us as individuals into a much broader place to occupy a broader dynamic of an expanded consciousness. So Ancient Future really gets into this shift that we're currently in and what that's going to look like, how it takes place, and pretty much where we are right now with fallout in the culture, with that shift being upon us, and the powers that be that have pretty much created the limitation, created the fields of darkness, created, the boxes that we all operate within. And now they are at a place where they have to make very, very specific decisions about their own reality and their own design of how to operate in this new frequency that is upon us.
In your book, you pretty much describe how the world was taken over by the folks that you're talking about right now. And in the radio program, you talked about the Aryans, and I recall reading in your book about how the Aryans came into prominence and dominance, so to speak. But it seems as though what you're describing is a movement away from that dominance into a new paradigm. You also talked about expansion, and as we know, we've gone through this this cosmic energy of late. When we had all those planets retrograde, we had the planet Jupiter, which is a planet of expansion, and then you had the planet Saturn, which is a planet of structure. So we've had these opposing forces creating an energy that has affected the world significantly. So could you put that into context in terms of, you know, the fall of the Aryan dominance and this new restructuring and expansion that's taking place right now?
Sure. And we'll flip too, because what really is, there's a profundity that exists, you know, on the behind the curtain. Let me put it in and frame it in that manner. That behind the curtain, there's a cultural profundity that reflects the consciousness that has been ongoing for the last 4,000 years. So with these new frequencies, because one of the things we first have to acknowledge is that our solar system is not stagnant. You know, we're consistently moving through our galaxy and occupying different areas of galactic space. And in these different areas of space, there are different frequencies that abound. And in these frequencies, you know, are the design, the sequential programs, you know, that spell change, that reveal the need for transformation. And based on these frequencies, it's virtually impossible to escape these changes that are on the horizon. So as we move into different areas of galactic space, you know, scientists talk about, you know, the shift and the change in the atmospheres, the stratosphere, global warming, all of these various things that they say come from particulates or pollutants, you know, on the planet. And they're very well, you know, could be some residual impact coming from these particulates on the planet. But the larger force of shifts and changes that are taking place with respect, you know, to global warming and things of that nature are coming from where we are in our revolution through galactic space. Global warming. So with that being said, we have to look at exactly the intensity of these different frequencies and how they impact us on, you know, biochemical and you know, bioconsciousness levels. And there's certain things that, you know, neurologically that are impacted with respect to the transmission of frequency as these frequencies impact the body, how the body absorbs these frequencies and moves them through the body into different areas that expand consciousness with the activation of, you know, different chemical compounds and neurotransmitting peptides, you know, that occupy space and are responsible for the expansion of consciousness in the human body.
That's really a mouthful, brother, because you've kind of opened up a Pandora's box. I mean, when I think about vibrations, I think about the millimeter wave, the microwave technology that's being proliferated around the world right now. There's no way that you can't be affected by that. And then at the same time, you have all of these toxins in our environment. You have viruses and cold germs and all of that. So we're navigating all these dangers that exist in our environment. And from what you're saying, it seems as though there are ways that we can be affected in ways that we don't even know, because we're being manipulated through technology right now, and it's extremely detrimental. So when I hear that, I just wonder, what we can do to mitigate some of the damage that's being done by all the technology that is it exists for profit and not necessarily for perfect health.
Yeah, that's a great statement. The mitigation, because like you said, a lot of what it is that we live through and operate in on a daily basis, we're completely and totally unawares of. We have no idea, as to how we're being impacted. Like right now, for example, the game currently, right now, the global game is frequency. It's all about frequency. It's all about being able to utilize vibrational elements to shift and change everything from environmental factors to biological factors that comprise and maintain, human design. And many of us have no idea as to how far reaching these developments in neuroscience and nanotechnology. We have no idea how far we've gone. But just to give an idea, if I can, in 1984, 85, we developed the first cloned human sheep called Dolly. That was in 1984/85. Now, do you believe or think that no cloning experiments or that cloning has not been perfected in that time? If we showed perfection in 85 with a sheep, you can just use your imagination a little bit, just a teeny bit, to kind of wrap your mind around where that whole dynamic of the science of cloning has been able to go from that time to now. Now, nanotechnology has also made amazing, immeasurable strides in terms of what they're able to do with nanotech. And I believe that that's going to be one of the greatest challenges for humanity that we have right now in terms of what we need to deal and how we have to deal with the current science that's so pervasive in our daily environment, because we're being impacted in a variety of different ways. Economically, right now, you have Tesla, Elon Musk, Bezos, and Gates have all gotten together to create a Starship Endeavor, which is the strategically positioning of these various systems of satellites around the Earth that will project 6G. Now, they're going to bombard Earth with 6G frequencies, and it's one of the biggest investment opportunities right now in the world of investment. So you have right now major investors jumping in, trying to find out, who's behind, the companies behind this technology that are helping the proliferation of these satellites as they move around. Many people have seen the satellites. They don't know what they are, but they're a linear stream of lights that you can see in the sky moving across the horizon at night. And these are the satellites that are being positioned to discharge these frequencies onto the planet that will go directly into your computers, TVs, your cars, and into you. So it's a profound game that we're in the midst of, and we've stepped in. I think this is one of the most important things that we need to wrap our mind around, is that we're in a movie now. We have stepped out of whatever reflected, this rudimentary reality that we occupied for so long. We've now stepped into a very functional, scientific, matrix-oriented reality that is going to be very impactful for all of humanity on multiple levels. Even, with the vaccine, they've been using nanotechnology in vaccines since 2011. And, now in 2021, you can imagine where the whole science of nanotech and vaccinations has gone. So we're in a very deep time, humanity.
For the benefit of those who don't really know what nanotechnology is or how it operates, could you just give us some insight on nanotechnology and that? And then the other thing that I want to talk about is, you mentioned 6G, and we're just coming into an understanding of 5G. But what you talked about is so profound. It sounds like it might be a way that you can get around the use of the internet in terms of getting a signal from one place to another. But talk about what nanotechnology is and why we should have concerns about it.
Well, nanotechnology, it has two sides, like pretty much everything does. Nanotechnology is dealing with micro organisms that you can find in nature, or micro technologies that have been designed and created by human beings. So in I believe it was the 80s. Yeah, it must have been the late 70s, early 80s. I attended at the National Academy of Sciences a week-long series of debates that took place in Washington, D.C. And the theme and focus of these debates was the utilization of nanotechnology and the utilization of recombinant DNA. And recombinant DNA is basically human beings going in and manipulating the genetic code for various reasons. The same thing was taking place with the ability to go in, develop these microbial units in the nanotech realm and utilize them in ways that are unforeseen and unknown with and by human beings. So a human being can actually, right now, where nanotech is, you can actually have a plane fly over your city and drop a certain type of nanotechnology that comes in the form of these like micro particles. These micro particles are so small, but yet at the same time, these particles can actually carry a blueprint of design that can activate and initiate specific functions once they enter the body. And so the debates that took place during that time, one group of scientists felt that we were not in a space of consciousness, which I interpret as a spiritual consciousness, to unleash this kind of technology onto the world. Another group of scientists were all for it, basically stating that no, this is the opportune moment to unleash this kind of technology onto humanity, onto the world, because it's going to move us and accelerate our movement, so exponentially that we'll be able to take up space and move forward in the space of technology tenfold. So what we have now, and this is what we have to pretty much reason with or come to reason with, are the forces that are behind the current technologies that are prevalent and pervasive in our environment. And those forces behind those technologies, what are they designed to do? My feeling is that we live in a world where the spiritual fabric has been corroded, eroded, made non-existent for quite some time, and that the necessary spiritual balance to help humanity move and go into places that are divinely inspired, that pulls in the balance of morality and specific purposefulness with respect to humanity, and the outpouring of a humane design has been eroded to such an extent that I don't believe it exists. I just don't believe that construct is available for the global human population at this time.
So in the radio program, we talked a bit about the patriarchal system that's been in place for as long as it has. And we also talked about the increasing presence of women in positions of power. But you said something really interesting about it. And I guess the way I received it is that even though there are women that are running governments and running central banks and all of that, they're still operating with I guess what could be perceived as masculine energy. And I guess what I'm curious about, the paradigm shift into a more balanced realm of deity, so to speak. So we have a balance of the masculine and the feminine in what we look at as supreme operating force in the universe.
And that's where the spiritual fabric comes into play. The expansion and the activation of that fabric as it is encoded in the consciousness of human design. I believe that right now, we are deficient in that codex within our own human design. And until that codex is activated, until that element, of our genetic aptitude is initiated, that we're playing against a stacked deck. And that a lot of what it is that we need to do to activate these frequencies that are coming in, and many people are being activated automatically. I have folks that call me, get in contact with me pretty consistently, in that they're receiving downloads and they don't understand the downloads. They know that they have been activated in a way that they're able to do things, feel things, see things, and understand things. Maybe not even understand, as more as understand these different programs that are now alive and awakened in their own field of consciousness. And with that activation, there's fear, because now they've been thrust into a place, an environment that they've never had to navigate before. And this is a good thing if individuals are around them that can help them to navigate this new environment. But I believe that where we are right now, and this is, for me personally, comes into the need for us as human beings to take half an hour or an hour out of our day and explore our internal design. And what I mean by that is, we have different systems that operate within our own being that, when activated, take us into a different mode of how we perceive ourselves and how we can actually become more expansive as a human being, more empowered as a human being, more familiar with our levels of personal power, and therefore our ability to go out and literally manage and manipulate and reorganize our daily environments. We have no idea as to how powerful we really are. And that's one of the major things that has been implemented and initiated upon the consciousness of humanity, to keep us away from that reality, to keep us away from the reckoning of how powerful we truly are. And so I feel that the time that we're in now and the frequencies that are being projected are frequencies that are all about the expansion of that consciousness. But I know for a fact that there are other frequencies now that are nanotech and genetically driven to try to neutralize these other frequencies that are being downloaded onto the earth at this time.
So it sounds like you're saying that we are being given a consciousness as a substitute for a consciousness that we could have more control over and relationship to. You mentioned also a few moments ago this idea of people receiving downloads. Could you talk a bit more about what that really means, how it manifests in our being?
No question. phone calls, Facebook messages, emails that I get from people who all of a sudden feel these waves of energy that are moving through their bodies and activating much deeper, giving them a deeper and more holistic sense of reality. And many people are apt to discredit what it is they're receiving because they've never been there before. So many people, upon the appearance of these newfound frequencies, have a tendency to move into a place of fear, because that allows them to not have to acknowledge that they are in the midst of a major shift that is now transpiring in their own personal reality. So the feeling of energies moving through their body, the perception of a greater field of consciousness, being able to see in a completely different mode of how reality operates. These are things that a lot of people are now experiencing, but are unsure of how to process this energy. And
so in essence, what you're describing is like people waking up because they're perceiving things as they really are and not as they're being told that they are.
Exactly.
So it's like, now you know, and now that you know, what are you going to do? How are you going to act? How do you respond to this newfound knowledge? And the fact that because you're vibrating on a certain level, you're attracting these downloads, you're attracting this information, you're attracting this awareness, and now it obligates you to do something differently than you did before. It's like you've been riding this car, and now all of a sudden you know how to drive it.
Exactly.
So now you got to drive the car, because if you don't drive the car, it's going to go off the road and put you in peril.
Exactly.
Is that a fair way to look at it?
No question. It's an upgrade, and when you have been upgraded, then the game shifts. When the game shifts, it's imperative that you learn the new rules of the game that you're now operating in. Because if you don't, then you're going to find yourself in a very precarious situation.
Okay. I want to talk about this new paradigm and the new rules, but before we go there, I want to dial back to something that you were talking about, and that is the importance of, and I'm just rephrasing it, but it's the importance of tuning in, because we get so many external stimuli that prevents us from accessing that consciousness that you spoke of. So it could be something as simple as taking your shoes off and putting your feet on the ground. They call that screwing in, or they call it earthing or grounding or something like that. It could be going into meditation for an hour. It could be practicing qigong or yoga, whatever those things might be. But could you give folks an understanding of what they can do in order to achieve what you just explained to us?
You've just named everything that they can do,
Okay. Okay.
I mean, yoga is a good base in terms of beginning to access a better quality of health on a physical level. Stretching the body activates a more consistent flow of lymph in the body, which basically it enhances systemically the overall human design, of the human body. So better circulation, better blood flow, better lymphatic drainage, better in all of these areas that are being empowered or affected by greater fluidity, gives greater insight, gives greater perception, gives a feeling of greater vitality as you move out into the world, and therefore gives you more energy to accomplish a lot more in less time. So yoga is good as it stands now. And when I say that, I mean yoga is more of a physical discipline than a holistic, spiritually oriented discipline. When I came up, yoga was holistic. We had to deal with all the different aspects, meditation, breath work, or what they call pranayama, your namas, niyamas, ways to literally live your life in what we refer to as ma'at principles coming out of Africa, the proper way and the proper design of how you approach life, how you approach being human, how you approach interacting with other humans. So your namas and niyamas, all of these things were critical in your approach and integration with the yoga concept and design. Right now, you don't really get that. You have one brother, Yasir Rahotep, who has gone back and pulled much of these elements out of Africa and the system of yoga that he does, which is called Kemetic yoga, inspired by traditions that evolved and arose out of ancient Egypt or Kemet. And you have a couple of other, yoga practitioners that I know of who tried to incorporate these elements. But all in large, yoga as a system is more physical now, but it does have benefit. It does have merit. Qigong, for me, Qigong is the be all end all. Qigong is based on the Tao. The Tao literally means the way. And when you ask for what is the way is the way of universal order and intention. So when you allow yourself to become integrated with universal order and intention, then you are in cosmic rhythm and fluidity. This is, for me, the be all end all, because with this as a system, if you can get just an hour of Qigong practice into your daily regimen, then that is allowing you as a human being to be more fruitful, more accomplished, more perceptive in your everyday design of, what reality is really all about, and move that level of reality. See, the thing about human beings is that we operate within a three-dimensional construct, but we're not three-dimensional beings. We are fourth-dimensional beings. So for me, at this time, what has come to me is that this shift that we're talking about is a fifth-dimensional shift into a new fifth-dimensional or 5D reality. But making the jump from 3D into 5D is going to be very problematic for most of humanity because they haven't reoriented themselves with their 4D design, which Qigong imparts to the practitioner. And that's why I love Qigong so much, is that through Qigong, you prepare yourself by reintegrating with your fourth dimensional design to prepare you for your fifth dimensional travel.
Okay, I want to talk a little bit more about what fifth dimensional reality is, but I also want to address the kind of the elephant in the room. When you talk about doing an hour of Qigong per day, or you talk about doing yoga or any practice of that nature that requires you to focus that way, you have so many different things competing with that time. And we live in this fast-paced society, and we got to go to work, and we got to cook the meals and all of that. How does one develop the discipline that will enable them to engage in that type of a practice on a daily basis?
It first and foremost, it begins here. This is where it begins. So you literally have to reorient the way you think about things. And that reorientation means that you have to look at the program that you want to be invested in carries with it very specific elements that enliven you, that makes you operate more effectively in your life and gives you a much deeper, expanded, and greater sense of fulfillment in terms of what you accomplish from minute to minute, hour to hour, day to day, year to year. It allows you to go in and manifest. Let me tell you, I'll give you a good example. I don't know if he's probably not on. This brother came to me, I guess this was like a couple of months ago now. He came to me. His life was in complete disarray. And he said, you know, I'm insecure. I'm in a piss poor job right now. COVID has completely disrupted my life, of what little bit of life that I had. Now, this brother, it was really, you know, he was a comedian. He is a comedian, but he was a comedian opening up for people like Kevin Hart. You know, he was out in LA doing his thing. I exposed him to the practices of Qigong. But in doing that, I'm exposing him to the practices of Tao, because I opened up a whole new world and platform of how to operate in this reality for him. And in that is about his own self-empowerment, the development of his own personal power. And now this brother, I got him locked into cryptocurrency. Within the first week, he made over $11,000 in cryptocurrency. And then went on, proceeded to just completely reorganize and reorient his life based on the daily practice that he made sure he had to find time to do, because he saw that what he had been exposed to, what he had learned, had opened up a whole new gateway of accomplishment in his life. Every aspect now, from his aspect in intimacy to his financial investment to his emotional and physical stability, had all been redefined and enhanced exponentially. I got a Facebook message from him yesterday, and he told me, he said, man, I'm getting ready to go and see my family that I haven't seen in 2 years. I got a call from this woman who saw a clip on my YouTube site, and she's a producer out here in LA, and she wants me to work with her. These are the kind of things that open up opportunity just based on the fact that you have allowed yourself to step out of the three-dimensional density that you've been enculturated with to believe that I gotta get up. You know, hey, I can't even go there. There's so much I could say about that, but it's all a matter of perspective and reorienting oneself in mind so that they begin to truly understand that this 1 hour that they have now invested in themselves and in their daily regimen allows the unfoldment and the refinement of a higher sense of manifestation.
You know, as you put it in those terms, it just seems as though it's a way of empowering oneself. It's a way of connecting with that supreme universal force, whatever you call it. It's a way of connecting with that and changing the paradigm. I mean, you can look at the glass as being half full or half empty. And the way that you look at that glass really determines how you're going to function in life. So if you live within a negative mind state on a constant basis, you're going to attract negativity to yourself. But when you make that transition and start dealing in the positive realm, and then you use those techniques that you have told us about, then you create new opportunities for abundance. I want to talk about what fifth dimension means. And I also want to talk about something that you raised a few moments ago called cryptocurrency, because somebody making $11,000 in 1 week is not a small thing. It's a big thing. It's a life-changing thing, because once you understand that you're able to do that, then you don't operate out of that spirit of lack, but you embrace the spirit of abundance and the idea that the universe will provide everything that you need in order to function properly. So talk about that fifth dimensional piece and what that really means to us as beings in this universe.
It's all about frequency. Again, it goes back to frequency. And you just elaborated on frequency in terms of, you know, depending on how you think and how you perceive your reality, half glass, glass half full, half empty, you know, will depend on what it is you attract to yourself. It's all frequency. So when we look at moving into a fifth dimensional realm, I haven't stepped into a fifth dimensional realm. So I can't even say in reality what my experience of 5D would look like. I can tell you about 4D and what that looks like, because through my practice, I've been able to repattern myself and be able to embrace a higher vibrational frequency that's reflective of a four-dimensional reality. 5D is supposed to be something that is completely and totally holistic, organic, and in total attunement, alignment with the natural schematic and cosmology of all things within the universal construct that we are a part of. What that looks like, I can only speak, the words and perceptive design that other people have said. I've never stepped into a 5D reality, so I can't speak from a place of actually knowing what that is. I know that it has to do with, there's a statement that's a means of prophecy that comes from the Hopis. And it talks about this time that we're in. And it says that there will come to be a tear in the fabric of space and time. And those who have prepared themselves will be able to walk right through. So literally what they're talking about is this movement out of 3D into 5D, but what is allowing the bridge to manifest and take place is the personal cultivation and refinement that that individual has done that is allowing them to move from 3D into 5D because they have repatterned themselves and reintegrated with their 4D domain.
So the bottom line is that we have an obligation to take control of our lives in certain ways. And one of those ways that we can do it is by the introspective and the discipline that you just mentioned as a way of unplugging from that which tries to affect our consciousness in a way that disempowers us and moving into a place where we can be the determiners of our future, and we can really be the determiners of our present just by the fact that we have reprogrammed ourselves or altered our mindset around how we are and how we exist. I think this may be kind of being out there on a limb, but the way I look at it sometimes, Brother Wayne, is just being in a position where you can just be who you are, and sometimes we get so consumed with how people think about us or how they feel about us or how they perceive us and all those other kinds of things. And the bottom line is what really matters most is what you think. The first chapter of that great book that you've written, I believe, deals with the whole idea of the universe being mental. And when you understand the mental aspect of things, then you understand how big a role your mind plays in what your reality looks like. And sometimes we allow things outside of ourselves to control our minds in a way that we let that control us rather than us assuming control of our lives. So we would rather watch the basketball game, or we'd rather go to the bar and throw back alcohol for an hour. And we're doing something that probably is not beneficial to us, because you sit there for the 2.5 hours to watch the basketball game. You're getting a whole bunch of programming. They're showing you commercials every 3 to 5 minutes. They're giving you all this information that's really not doing anything to edify you, but they're keeping you plugged into something that's external. That you could take that time and say, okay, no, I'm not going to do that. I'm going to plug in, I'm going to tune in, I'm going to screw in, I'm going to do what I have to do to make that connection that's going to give me the power to control outcomes. You know, I read the 11 Laws of God, my aunt, thanks to your dear brother, my dear friend, Dr. James Brown. And reading that book and reading your book, and I read both of them within those 4 days, by the way, it was like, okay, this is the reset. This is the wake up. Now you know what you got to do. Let's move in that direction. And I can tell you, Brother Wayne, that I don't want to necessarily say magically, but I've seen certain things manifest. You know, you brought certain economic realities to me within the past year. And I received that information and I'm acting upon that information. So I'm experiencing some of the same joy that your comedian friend has experienced in seeing that, oh, I can do this and then get that. And the whole idea is not necessarily about having things. It's about having an ability to take care of things. Because the way the world is headed right now, I mean, look, man, the gas out there is $3 a gallon now. A year ago, you could get a gallon of gas for $2.
Right.
That's a 33% increase in the cost of something. But when people are working jobs, their pay isn't going up 33% in a year. They're lucky if their pay goes up 1 or 2%, if it goes up at all. And some people are locked into wages that will probably never go up if their employers have anything to do with it, because they can't make more money that way.
Right.
So they those wages locked in. So cryptocurrency, let's just talk about this reset that is taking place right now, because, you know, I look at it in terms of some of the information that has come through my association with you. And one thing that I'm noticing is this whole idea of a changing of ages. You know, we have witnessed paradigm shifts in terms of industry and technology. So at one point, we were riding on horses. And then they created this thing called a car. And we went from feeding a horse hay to putting gasoline in a vehicle. Now we're moving to a point where we're going from gas to electricity. And there are folks who want to hold on to those gas-powered cars, and they're going to be paying $9 a gallon for a gallon of gas, or they can charge their car for 15 minutes and travel 350 miles. So when you look at doing what makes sense, it makes more sense to drive that car that costs, you know, $2 or $3 worth of electricity versus the $200 or $300 that you're going to have to put in that gas tank in order to get the same 350 miles. So we're seeing this paradigm shift in industry, and we're seeing that paradigm shift in the machinery of economics. We know that the banks, they've been pimping us for a while. I mean, they've been pimping us for a long time that we weren't really aware of, but it's become painfully obvious. And I know I've worn this metaphor out, you know, but it's just, it makes sense to me. $1,000 in a savings account that earns 73 cents interest in 3 years. You know, I'm looking at a 401k or a mutual fund that earns 10% in a year, and 10% for a mutual fund is a good year. But you got cryptocurrency that's giving you 10% in 2 weeks. You got cryptocurrency that's getting you 3 and 4 and 500% returns in the matter of a month. So we're seeing this paradigm shift, and many of us are sitting on the sidelines because we're still stuck in going to the bank and getting our money, and it just sitting there and not doing anything. So talk about how this new economic system is rolling out, and the reset that's taking place within our world economic paradigm.
Yeah, the reset has 2 levels to it. And I I don't know if you want to go into the really deep level of what that implies, but the basic general superficial level of the reset is moving from, a fiat paper concept in currency to a totally digital dollar, and utilization of that digital dollar, not only in a national format, but really to operate globally. And so we're looking at the removal of fiat currencies and the idea of fiat currencies, because only certain communities of people still really use dollars. I believe that a lot of folks in the Black community still use paper money. I see it, in various ways when I go into certain stores. And I see that the elderly are still very comfortable with using paper money. So what people are going to have to come to grips with, especially the elderly, because the elderly have these retirement funding programs, and they're going to lose a lot. Everybody is going to lose if you have not made the proper reformations to redesign, how you're managing, your finances. So, for example, a person that has a retirement program that they're invested in, say that they started in 2000, this is 2020, 2021, they've already lost 53%, of that retirement that they have been thinking they've been accumulating for all these years. And you have, inflation tax that are assessed to your retirement account that has moved you into the loss of 53% of that retirement accum. And then when we go into the reset and the transference from the fiat into the digital dollar takes place, that's a standard loss of 31 to 33% of a person's financial accumulation. And if you take that 31 to 33% and you put that on top of a retirement program that has already lost 53%, then what you step away from and what you come out with is just residue. That's what you're operating with. You're operating with financial residue. So people are going to be hit hard, and this is a global reformation. So it's not just here in America, but it's all over the planet. So everybody is going to be moved into this. Basically, what it is a what's that movie? It just popped out of my head, but it was a movie, Hunger Games. We're moving into a Hunger Games scenario where the middle class is going to be decimated. And the middle class is going to become the new poor. Those who have seen the game, those who have made the necessary investment to move from their standing and station in the middle class to a productive, upper class, because they've made good investments, will be able to survive and maintain themselves in this new socio-financial order of things. The middle class is going to be completely and totally eradicated. And that's because the middle class has not seen the whole picture, has not viewed what is being promoted and implemented. And because of that, they're not going to make it.
It's interesting that you point that out, because people have a tendency to think in terms of down the road. And when you look at the United States economy within the past year, we've seen a loss of 50% of the small businesses, and I would have to imagine that many of those folks who are operating small businesses exist within the realm of, quote, being in the middle class. So I think, some of us might have a false sense of security because we might have a 401k, because we might have access to Social Security or whatever, and we're doing okay to make ends meet right now. But when you offset that with the hyperinflation that we're dealing with right now, and the potential loss of value of what are called assets right now, you might want to start thinking about ways that you can change that reality so that you are prepared to deal with the things that are already happening right now. We look at the past year and the fact that the 10 richest men on the face of the earth have added trillions of dollars to their coffers, while on the other hand, people have lost homes, people have lost jobs, people have lost businesses. So, we're not talking about down the road. We're talking about things that are happening right now. And the parallel to that is that there are also things that are happening right now in the financial world that will allow you to, I hate to use this word, but capitalize is the word.
No question.
I mean, because we're talking about capital, and it is the manipulation of capital that allows certain entities to maintain control of that capital. But then you have this whole idea of decentralization. And I know we're going deep for some folks, but we have to talk about these things, because if you don't know, you need to know. You talk about peer-to-peer, that eliminates the bank. That's what the decentralized platform is all about. It's about you making a transaction with another person without having to have somebody hold the money for you. Because what they do is they hold the money. That's what the banks do. They hold your money for a week. While they have it, they put it in things, and then it grows exponentially, and they reap all the benefits from that. And then they allow the transaction to go through.
Exactly.
And you lose complete control over all the eggs that you put in that basket to give to somebody else. I mean, it's a simple way to look at it, but that's exactly what's happening. So now we're looking at ways that we can take the bank out of the picture, and we can make that transaction peer-to-peer, and we don't have to worry about, well, it's over $10,000. If they see me moving $10,000 and they think that I'm doing something illegal, no. All you're doing is capitalizing on your capital.
No question.
That's
no
what
question.
It's supposed to be about.
Yeah, like they do. The game is that they want to be able to do it, but they want to make sure that you can't do it. That's the game right there. One of the things, like the statement you made, a false sense of security, is so on point. So on point, because people, they have these 401ks, they have these IRAs. As I mean, when the economy shifts and paper money is gone, all of that is gone. It's gone. 401s, IRAs, 403s, 408s, your Roth programs, I have a very good friend, and one of the things that I do, as you know, because you did this, and this was to take a 401 and roll it over into precious metals, roll it over into gold and silver. That secures your financial accumulation that you have built during the course of your life, making sure that when these things collapse, you are set and you are going to be, your assets are going to be invaluable because silver is going to rise, gold is going to rise. When last year, when Warren Buffett shocked the world when he invested $530 million into gold, $500 million. And his boy, Sam Zell, did the exact same thing. You have all of these people that are in the know who understand the problem is that, we don't understand metals. We don't understand using gold and silver as a hedge against an inflationary financial environment. We don't get that. But when you take a 401, when you take an IRA, 403, 408, when you take a Roth and you roll that over into precious metals, you have now secured yourself for your life. You have now developed immeasurable, incalculable security, financial security. So many people just don't get, like this friend of mine that I was talking about, a good friend. I told him, I said, look, man, you have a 401. You need to roll that over. You have an IRA, you need to roll that over into metals. He says, okay. And he comes back to me and he said, I'm already invested in metals. I said, in what? He said, well, in my IRA, in my 401. I said, no, you can't be invested in metals. He said, no, I'm invested in metals. I have 5% of my 401 in my IRA, 5% are invested in metals. Now, this is the game. What they have you invested in are ETFs, pieces of paper, contractual agreements that when you cash those pieces of paper, those contracts, those ETFs, when you cash them in, you don't get metals. You get paper dollars. That's all you get. It's paper dollars. I know because I've been there. I've invested into ETFs that were, stocks that were, about gold and silver. And when I cash those in for profit, I don't get gold and silver. I get cash dollars. Now, the game is that your broker is going to try to convince you that you do not want to purchase gold and silver because they do not make money off of your purchases in actual metals. They only make money off of your paper purchases, your contractual purposes, your investments into ETFs, your investments into stocks. That's where they make their money. They can't make their money outside of that program. which moves you into reality. Reality. Reality is being able to have a 401 turned into actual physical gold and silver. And now to know that your wealth is secure. You have an entire range of DeFi cryptocurrencies which removes the middleman, i.e., the banks, from the equation and lets you handle your business from person to person. The whole DeFi space in cryptocurrency is profound and so functionally efficient that the banks now are cowering in their shoes because they see that their time is about to come to an end. It's a new day. It's a totally new day. And this is not a paradigm shift. This is literally a reformation of the basic model that we have been living.
Yes, it is literally going from the horse to the car right now. And the banks are still chewing on hay and trying to figure out how they can drive the car. So we won't go too much farther into that. I know that there are folks who have probably got their heads spinning because they can't wrap minds around, this. But trust and believe this is something you definitely want to pay attention to, because other than that, you'll be on the outside looking in. I kind of look at it like, this is probably not a good comparison, but the dot-com boom. There was a time around the turn of the century when the internet took off and websites took off, and you had this huge infusion in the economy based on the technical realm of things, the technical sector. That's the word I'm looking for. And now we're in a similar place, and it is literally making some people very wealthy right now. You have an opportunity to do that. We don't want to go too deep in the rabbit hole, but I'll just give you an example. The other day, I bought a coin that is a non-fungible token. It's an NFT. It's one that we've talked about. It's called Shiba Inu. And as I say this is not investment advice. I'm not a financial advisor. This is for informational and educational purposes only. Okay. But I was able to buy
entertainment. You left out entertainment.
Oh, entertainment purposes. Yeah, entertainment as well. I'll be really entertained when what happens. But long story short, I bought 7 million coins for $53. Now, the coins that I bought are potentially going to rise in value, and we'll just say conservatively they'll rise in value to $1. So 7 million times $1 is $7 million. That is an investment, a very small investment that I made. But just check back with me in a year's time, and we'll see what things are.
Or less.
Or less.
I mean, a guy who got into that same coin, Shiba Inu, he dropped $17 into that coin, and he came out a multimillionaire. He walked away with $6.3 million. 6.3.
Yeah.
So this is an amazing time for people to get invested and to become wealthy. Really, it really is. But we also have to look at all of the distractions around us, and the distractions abound. Right now, everybody is in fear, and that fear, it translates into every facet of your life. It translates into how you view your financial, design. It translates into, wow, well, maybe I don't really need to make an investment like this because, COVID, there's no telling where we're going to go, with the whole COVID piece. And you're right. To get into what's behind the curtain, what's beneath the veil, if you all really knew, you'd go running, screaming out your front and back doors. But it is a time for opportunity, and we're in a very transformative period for the human race. And that being said, when you have something that great that is on the horizon, you have to take into consideration that there's something as equally diabolical that is awaiting us to try to negate and neutralize that movement into the higher sphere.
Brother Wayne, we have a few folks who are watching us on YouTube. One of them is our friend in Las Vegas, Gail C. Ferguson. Shout out to Gail, who is producing a documentary about your Sir Rahotep, and also includes you. Thank you to you for that. We also have someone named Lou Hobbs, and Lou has offered a few opinions about some of the things that we've talked about, but she asks a question, and that question is, how do you define happiness?
For me, happiness is connection, with your divine self, for me personally, because that's the basis that allows everything else to give birth and to evolve, so the more integrated, a human being is with who and what they truly are, which is a divine design, the more you're able to really manifest and create the realities that you need and want to have in your daily life.
Okay. Well, I think that's a beautiful place for us to conclude this broadcast. If you have been watching, you have gotten quite a few tools that you can put in your toolbox to improve the quality of your life, and also to move towards a place where you'll be able to empower yourself to have all of your needs met. We are struggling right now because we're seeing supply chain issues, and we're seeing inflation, and we're seeing a transformation of the world economic system. And we can look at all these things that are happening to us right now and get entrenched in perhaps a doom and gloom type of mentality. But when you look at the universal aspect of the universe being mental and your ability to determine outcomes, there are ways that you can put yourself in a frame of mind that won't push you towards the edge, that won't push you to the abyss and get so engulfed in a sense of hopelessness that you don't think that you have any control over everything. Because you can be in the driver's seat if you choose to be, or you can let somebody else drive the car. It's up to you. You want to drive your car, you want somebody else to drive your car. I'm choosing to drive my car.
Or to be in a car that's driving by itself, and not telling you where it's taking you,
Right.
Yeah.
But the bottom line is you can make that choice. I'm going to put the way to get to your book, because it's real simple. They can just put Wayne B. Chandler on their search engine on Amazon, and you can get Ancient Future. You can get the education that we gave you today on the history of the world and our place in it and the place of others who have been trying to control things but are rapidly losing control as we speak. All those pains that they're going through right now to try to control stuff that they can't control because it's beyond their control. We're just going to say that. So you can get your copy of Ancient Future just by going to Amazon.com. You can also reach out to Brother Wayne if you're interested in learning about cryptocurrency and some of those programs that we've been talking about today, or we haven't been talking about, but knowledge that we have access to that will allow you to grow your wealth that way. If you want to drop something on the YouTube page, or you want to comment on my Facebook page, you can do that. I will post information after this broadcast is immortalized on YouTube on how you can reach out to Brother Wayne and to myself if you're interested in increasing your wealth by investing in precious metals and cryptocurrency and some of the other things that we have to be able to allow you to do that. Brother Wayne, it's always a pleasure to connect with you. I learned so much from you each and every time. I read the book in 2 days. I might need to reread it again before the year is over. Maybe I'll do that next winter solstice when I have those hours and hours to just tune in, and I'm not doing radio shows and TV shows. I'm shutting things down for that introspective period. And bruh, when I grow up, I want to be just like you, man. I want to get the discipline that will allow me to do the qigong that your brother Dr. Brown taught me. Spend my hour doing that, and I do the yoga sometimes, I do the meditation sometimes, but I know that it is really necessary. So I'm gonna take your advice and move towards that, and I'm going to set that intention during the winter solstice that comes up this year. So perhaps next year, I know the seeds have already been planted, and the harvest is about to be reaped. So some of that work is going to have to be done again. I'm taking notes, Dr. Brown. I know you know that, but I'm just embracing this blessing and this joy that comes with the increase in our vibrational frequencies. I recognize that. We don't know that we're walking around glowing sometimes. Right. We don't understand why sometimes out of the clear blue sky, somebody who you don't know will walk up to you and say hello. But it's because you vibrating at such a level that attracts them to you, and they acknowledge your existence and you acknowledge theirs. It's a beautiful thing, the way this universe works. Any parting words of wisdom that you'd like to give us before we conclude the broadcast?
Oh, man. Within each aspiration dwells the certainty of its own fulfillment. Get busy.
There it is. Get busy. I got to get back to work. You got to get back to work, I'm sure, because your phone is ringing off the hook all day, every day. I'm going to reach out to our sister Gail because I think she might want to hear from me, and want to help her out with the project that she's working on. And we'll see you tomorrow evening in our call where we are grooming and building millionaires. Brother Wayne, it's been a pleasure. Peace, blessings, and prosperity. And Hotep.
Hotep.
All right.
Peace, bro.
Thank you, brother.